Gulliver, Lukashenko arriving today in Sochi sort of effectively to ask for Putin's support. And that's actually quite a change for Lukashenko, who not long ago was trying to distance himself from the Russian leader. Tell us a bit about how their relationship has evolved.
Absolutely. Just before the election on the 9th of August, Alexander Lukashenko was accusing Russia of unwanted meddling in Belarusian affairs. 33 Russian mercenaries had been arrested in Belarus at the end of July. We still really don't understand what the real circumstances of this were, but Alexander Lukashenko used that to say that the Russians were preparing some kind of mischievous business in Belarus after the election, and to pose as the defender of Belarusian sovereignty, not just against Western meddling, but also against Russian meddling. Really, the trademark of Alexander Lukashenko throughout his 26 years in power has been this playing off of Russia against the West. Belarus has always been more in the Russian camp. Belarus is very economically dependent on Russia, but Alexander Lukashenko has made sure that it's never really been totally in the Russian camp, and that it's always been clear that its alliance with Moscow is not unconditional. And in 2014, Alexander Lukashenko made himself really quite useful to the West by refusing to recognize Russia's annexation from Ukraine of Crimea and hosting peace talks for the situation in eastern Ukraine in Minsk. The Kremlin wasn't very happy with that, and in the subsequent years, Russian economic support, to put it simply, for Belarus has basically been progressively reduced, leading to the economic hardship in Belarus that is one of the main reasons why Alexander Lukashenko is now so unpopular, and why he has found himself having to repress protests against his rule so brutally that it really rules out any rapprochement with the European Union in the medium term. And so now he's really going cap in hand to Vladimir Putin with few other options left.
Yeah, sounds like a possible rapprochement then between Lukashenko and Putin. How is that idea then of an improved relationship between those two being received on those streets of Minsk where protests are still taking place?
Well, it's always hard to assess Belarusian public opinion because there are no opinion polls. For a long time, Belarus was regarded as a country with rather a weak national identity, very close culturally to Russia. The Belarusian language is only spoken by a minority of the population, and the red and white flag, which was the former flag of independent Belarus in the early 90s and also in 1918, was the symbol only of a patriotic intellectual opposition very much opposed to Alexander Lukashenko and pretty much in the minority. That's clearly changing. That red and white flag is now all over the streets of Belarus during these protests. It's become the symbol of the opposition to Alexander Lukashenko. Also, among the various songs that have become the anthems of this protest movement, there are numerous songs in Belarusian. There's the feeling that this protest movement against the president is a sort of a national awakening, which has made Belarusians proud of what they see as their national characteristics as well, of being very determinedly peaceful. There's no violence in these demonstrations, also very disciplined. They pick up the rubbish after all the demonstrations. There's a great deal of newfound national pride in Belarus, which makes a lot of analysts think that at any kind of rapprochement with Moscow or concessions to Russia, perhaps in terms of going further with this union state between the two countries, would not be very well received at the moment, and especially badly received if Alexander Lukashenko was the person putting it forward. That said, the leaders of the Belarusian opposition are always at pains to stress that they're not pro-Russian, and that they're not anti-Russian, I meant to say. They stress that they're not anti-Russian, not just because they would hope to be able to continue to be allied with Russia, at least on some level, if they manage to get rid of Alexander Lukashenko and take power, but also, as one of them confirmed to me last week here in Kiev, because they are extremely wary of alienating that part of Belarusian society that still sees itself as being very, very close to Russia and is not keen on an opposition that would be seen as pro-European.
All right, Gulliver Cragg for us there. Thank you very much indeed.